I put our passports in your black handbag, Michael called out. Or did I put them in the suitcase? He placed the two dark blue passports on the entryway console, his fingertips nudging them until their edges were perfectly aligned. There was no response from the living room. He tilted his head and saw his husband, Alex, sitting on the sofa, phone pressed to his ear. His back was ramrod straight, a posture Michael knew all too well. He was on one of those calls. Michael didn't ask again. He turned and went into the bedroom, placing both passports into the side pocket of the black leather handbag. Next to the bag lay two neatly folded dress shirts he'd prepared, one light blue and one white, the two colors Alex wore most often. He had already ironed the collars and cuffs, pressing the creases in the places least likely to wrinkle. The suitcase, a 2.8-inch silver hardshell, sat open on the floor. Michael had started packing 3 days ago. Sunscreen, a universal adapter, a box of the blood pressure medication Alex was supposed to take. Alex's pressure had been flagged as high on his last 3 physicals at the naval base, but he never took his medication voluntarily. Michael tucked the pill bottle into the outermost pocket of the toiletry bag, where it would be the first thing he saw. The voice from the living room stopped. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, and Alex appeared in the bedroom doorway. At 6'2", his frame filled most of the opening. He glanced down at the open suitcase, then back at Michael. Tomorrow's flight is canceled. Michael's hand, holding a pair of folded socks, froze in midair. Canceled? The base scheduled a last-minute coordination meeting for a joint exercise. It's mandatory, can't be moved, Alex said, his tone flat, as if reporting a work schedule that had nothing to do with him. I've already spoken to the travel agency. The honeymoon is postponed by 2 weeks. Michael placed the socks into a side pocket of the suitcase, his movements uninterrupted. Okay, I'll put the suitcase away then. Yeah, Alex said, and turned to leave. He had been there for less than 40 seconds. Michael knelt before the suitcase and began taking things out, one by one. The sunscreen, the adapter, the blood pressure medication, Alex's 2 dress shirts, his own swim trunks, the floral print sundress he had bought specifically for the honeymoon, the tag still attached. He folded the dress and placed it back in the deepest part of his closet. His phone lit up. It was a message from his best friend, Jessica. What time is your flight tomorrow? I want to see you guys off. Michael typed 3 words, it's postponed, and sent them. He then flipped his phone face down on the bed. He didn't cry or sigh. He simply zipped up the empty suitcase and pushed it back into the corner of the walk-in closet. The wheels rolled over the hardwood floor with a low, rumbling sound. This was the 11th month of their marriage. The honeymoon had been postponed twice before. The first time was for Alex's cross-departmental review at the beginning of the year. The second was for a surprise inspection from Fleet Command in March. Both times, Michael had said, okay. This was the third time. A timer in the kitchen beeped. Michael stood up and walked to the kitchen to turn off the stove. A pot of chicken soup had been simmering for 2 hours. The broth was a milky white, dotted with carrots and herbs. He skimmed the fat from the surface, ladled a bowl, and carried it to the study. The soup is ready. Alex didn't look up, his hand turning a page of the document in front of him. Just leave it on the desk. Michael placed the bowl on the corner of the desk, in the 3rd grid square to the right. There was a silicone coaster he had placed there, its edge perfectly flush with the desk's. He had measured the spot where Alex usually set his coffee mug. Before leaving the study, he glanced at his husband's back. The muscles of his shoulder blades tense beneath his white t-shirt. Alex never looked at him. Michael closed the door. The next morning, Michael was watering the plants on the balcony when his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number with a San Diego area code. Hello? He answered. Hello, am I speaking with a member of Mr. Alex Stanton's family? Yes, this is his husband. This is the United Airlines concierge service. We are calling to confirm that the seats for Mr. Stanton's booking for 2 passengers on flight UA 3251 tomorrow, from San Diego to Bali, have been upgraded to business class. We just wanted to confirm if you have any special meal requirements. The watering can in Michael's hand tilted. Water overflowed from the pot, spilling across the tiled balcony floor. I'm sorry, you said tomorrow? Yes, sir. June 2nd. Flight UA 3251, departing at 10:20 a.m. The 2 passenger names are Mr. Alex Stanton and... There was a pause as the agent shuffled papers. Miss Claire Lynn. Water seeped from the balcony into the living room. Michael set the watering can down. His hands weren't shaking, but he could feel his heart beating in his throat, each thump making it hard to speak. Sir, are you still there? Yes. His voice was steady, every syllable perfectly enunciated. No special meals required. Thank you. He hung up and stood on the balcony, staring at the puddle of water at his feet. The sunlight reflecting off it was blinding. Claire Lynn. He knew that name. Before they were married, he had looked through one of Alex's old photo albums. In a high school picture, a slender girl with long hair stood next to him, smiling sweetly. He had asked Alex once who she was. A childhood friend, Alex had said. She moved abroad a long time ago. Not another word. He cleaned up the water on the balcony, washed the watering can, and placed it back on the second shelf of the balcony rack. Then he sat on the sofa, opened his phone, and searched for flight UA 3251. San Diego to Bali, 10:20 a.m. departure, tomorrow. 2 business class tickets, one in his husband's name, the other in another woman's. And last night, his husband had stood in their bedroom doorway and told him the flight was canceled because of a mandatory meeting at the base. He opened his text conversation with Alex. The last message was from him, sent last night at 9 p.m. The pills are in the outside pocket of your toiletry bag. Alex hadn't replied. Michael scrolled up through their chat history. Their conversations were always the same. He would send 2 or 3 messages, and Alex would reply with one. Sometimes an okay, sometimes a got it. His most frequent type of message was an instruction. There's a reception at the Admiral's on Saturday. Be ready. He had never seen the name Claire Lynn on Alex's phone, not because Alex hid it well, but because Michael had never looked at his phone. He didn't look because he trusted him. Michael closed his messages and opened Amazon. The woven straw beach bag he'd ordered 3 days ago had been delivered to their building's package room. He hadn't picked it up yet. He found the order and clicked Return Item. At 2 p.m., he went to the supermarket. There were 2 cartons of milk left in the fridge, enough for 3 days. There were 5 eggs. He bought a bunch of celery, a block of tofu, and a carton of cherries. He loved cherries. Alex would sometimes grab a few from the fruit bowl on the coffee table as he walked by. Michael pushed his cart past the fresh seafood counter, his pace unchanged from any other day. The checkout line was long. The woman in front of him was fumbling through her purse for her wallet. Michael waited, his gaze falling on a display of disposable lighters by the register. He remembered how Alex looked on the phone last night. His back was straight, but it wasn't the tense posture of a difficult work call. It was something else. He could recognize it now, the slight lift of the shoulders, the way his body leaned forward, as if trying to get closer to the person on the other end. His voice, Michael couldn't hear the exact words from across the living room, but he remembered the last thing he said. Okay, I'll arrange it. Not I'll handle it. Not Roger that. I'll arrange it. He had used that phrase with him once, when they were renovating their new condo. Michael had said he wanted a floor-to-ceiling window. Alex had said, okay, I'll arrange it. The window was installed. At the time, Michael thought it meant he cared. It was his turn. He placed the cherries, celery, tofu, and a bottle of soy sauce on the conveyor belt. He paid with his phone. Back home, he washed the cherries, dried each one with a paper towel, and arranged them on a white ceramic plate in the center of the coffee table. At 7 p.m., Alex came home. The sound of his dress shoes clicking on the tile floor in the entryway. Michael was in the kitchen, cooking. The range hood was loud. He didn't need to go out to greet him. How many dishes tonight? Herb-crusted salmon, roasted asparagus, garlic mashed potatoes, and a butternut squash soup. His footsteps headed toward the living room. Michael knew he would pour a glass of water first, then sit down and look at his phone for exactly 10 minutes. He checked the fish in the steamer. A chopstick pierced the flesh easily, perfectly cooked. He turned off the heat, transferred the fish to a platter, drizzled it with soy sauce, scattered fresh scallions on top, and finished with a spoonful of sizzling hot oil. By the time he had all 4 dishes on the table, Alex was already seated. His plate was set perfectly, the chopsticks resting on a holder, tips pointing left. He always set them that way because he was left-handed. During dinner, he glanced at his phone, typed a few words, and then flipped it face down on the table. What time are you leaving tomorrow? Michael asked. Alex's chopsticks paused for less than half a second before resuming their motion. A car from the base is picking me up at 07000. I'll get up at 6 to make you breakfast. Don't bother, I'll eat at the mess hall. He took a sip of the soup. The temperature was just right, not too hot. He took another bite of fish. He ate quickly. Throughout the entire meal, he said nothing else to Michael. When he finished, he pushed his bowl forward. I'm heading to the study. Okay, I'll get the dishes. He left. Michael collected his bowl and chopsticks. A piece of tofu was left untouched at the bottom. He used his own chopsticks to move it into his bowl, then rinsed Alex's bowl clean. The water was running loudly as he washed the dishes. His eyes stung for a moment, just a moment. He turned the faucet on higher. At 10 p.m., he came out of the shower. Alex was already in bed, his back to him, his breathing even and steady. Michael, in his nightgown, stood by the bed for 3 seconds, then lifted the covers and slid into his own side. The bed was a king, but there was a clear dividing line down the middle, not drawn but formed by habit. 2 individual hollows, never transgressed. He remembered their wedding night. Alex had held him, but only for a moment, a brief embrace that felt like completing a task. Then he had said, "Let's get some sleep." In the 11 months of their marriage, he could count on one hand the number of times Alex had touched him. He had thought it was because he was busy, because of a soldier's discipline and restraint. He had thought things would get better, once Alex wasn't so busy, once the honeymoon finally happened, once they had real time for just the two of them. He had been waiting. Now he knew where that time had gone. He turned on his side, looking at Alex's back. The straight line of his spine under the white t-shirt, his broad shoulders, his steady breath. He was sleeping peacefully. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., he would get dressed and leave. He would tell Michael he was going to the base, but his real destination was the airport, business class. 2 people to Bali. What was supposed to have been his life? Michael closed his eyes, his nails digging into his palms. He could feel the sharp pressure, deepening bit by bit. He hid his hands under the covers, his face expressionless. At 5:40 a.m., 20 minutes before his alarm, Michael woke up. He didn't open his eyes. The weight beside him was still there. The rhythm of his breathing was unchanged. He waited. At 5:55 a.m., Alex shifted, and the mattress springs recoiled slightly. He was up. The sound of water from the bathroom. Michael kept his eyes closed, listening, brushing his teeth, 2 minutes, washing his face, shaving the hum of the electric razor, the closet door opening and closing, footsteps leaving the bedroom, heading for the entryway. He heard the shoe cabinet slide open. Alex usually wore his combat boots, but today, Michael heard the soft slide of leather shoes. The brown loafers, a casual pair he had helped him pick out. The sales clerk had said they were perfect for a vacation. Alex had smiled, a rare thing, and said to him, "Then we'll take them." He had never worn them, until today. The jingle of keys in the entryway, then the sound of the front door opening. Michael opened his eyes. The ceiling was white. A sliver of gray-blue light filtered through the curtains. The deadbolt clicked shut. He was gone. No goodbye, no I'm leaving, not even a look back into the bedroom. He lay in bed, his gaze fixed on the ceiling light fixture. He had installed it himself, spending hours online comparing the color temperatures of a dozen brands to find the one that most closely resembled natural light, all because Alex had once commented that the lights in the house were too yellow. In their 11 months of marriage, everything he did was to make Alex's life more comfortable. He had put the labels on the containers in the fridge. He had arranged his shirts by color, from light to dark. He had reorganized the file rack on his desk according to his habits. He knew the dosage of Alex's medication better than Alex himself, and Alex had given his honeymoon to another woman. Michael sat up. He wasn't crying. He picked up his phone from the nightstand and opened the United app. He entered the flight number, UA3251. Flight status, checked in. He couldn't see the passenger information, but the departure time was there in black and white, 10:20 a.m. It was 16 vormittags. He was a liar. He got out of bed and went to the bathroom. The face in the mirror was pale, his lips dry. He turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on his face. As the cold shocked his skin, he saw a single hair on the edge of the sink, long and black. It wasn't his. He had dyed his hair dark brown 3 months ago. He stared at the hair for a moment, then picked it up with a tissue and threw it in the trash. At 6:30 a.m., he was in the kitchen, making himself a bowl of oatmeal. The oats bubbled in the pot, cooked until they were almost formless. He cracked an egg into the pot and whisked it in. He ate slowly, chewing every mouthful. Halfway through, he put down his spoon, picked up his phone, and went to the United Airlines website. UA3251, June 2nd, San Diego to Bali, business class. Seats available, 0. He took a screenshot. Then he closed the browser, opened his text messages, and found his conversation with Alex. The last message was still his from the night before last. The pills are in the outside pocket of your toiletry bag. Alex had never replied. He put his phone down and finished the rest of the oatmeal. He washed the bowl and spoon, wiped the kitchen clean until there wasn't a single drop of water on the counter. On the living room coffee table, the white ceramic plate of cherries he had washed yesterday remained. Alex hadn't eaten a single one. He stood in the middle of the living room and looked around at this home. 1,300 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Their marital home. When they were renovating, he had taken a month off work to oversee the contractors every day. He had spent 2 days at the fabric market to find the perfect blackout curtains that didn't make the room feel dark. He had adjusted the sofa's position 3 times to align it perfectly with the center of the television. He had added a storage shelf underneath the coffee table to hold the military journals Alex liked to read. Every detail bore his mark, but there were no pictures of him in this house. Not in the entryway, not in the living room, not in the study. There was a picture frame on the nightstand in the bedroom. Alex had kept it face down, saying a wedding photo was too conspicuous. Michael walked over and picked it up. In the photo, he was wearing a white wedding dress, smiling so hard his eyes crinkled into crescents. Alex was in his dress uniform, looking sharp and facing the camera with a barely perceptible curve to his lips. Michael's shoulder was leaning against Alex's arm, but Alex's arm made no move to reciprocate. He put the frame back on the nightstand, face down. At 9 a.m., he sat on the sofa. The TV was on, but muted. His phone lay beside him. 9:15 a.m. The phone lit up. A message from Alex. Just got to the base. It's going to be a long day. Michael looked at the message. He typed, "Okay, got it. Send." The screen showed read. No follow-up. He put his phone down and stared at the silent television. The news channel was showing something about an economic forum. Men in suits spoke on a stage, subtitles scrolling quickly. Had he gone to the base? Or had he gone to the airport? 9:40 a.m. He opened the flight tracker app again. UA 3251 real-time status. At the gate. Estimated departure 10:20 a.m. He was probably in the business class lounge right now, with Claire Lynn sitting beside him. Maybe they were drinking coffee. Maybe Alex was smiling, a kind of smile Michael had never seen. Or maybe he was saying things to her he never said to him. "I missed you. It's been too long." Or maybe they said nothing at all, just sat there together, close. Michael stood up and walked into the bathroom. He turned on the faucet and let the cold water run over his hands, his fingers spread, letting it rush through the gaps. Something was caught in his throat. It wasn't the urge to cry. It was something heavier, like a stone slab pressed against his chest. It didn't hurt, it just made it hard to breathe. He turned off the water, dried his hands, and went back to the living room, back to the sofa. The TV was still on. Silent images in a silent home. 10:20 a.m. The flight tracker on his phone sent a notification. UA 3251 has departed. Michael stared at the words for a long time. Then he locked his phone, placed it on the coffee table, and picked up the remote to turn on the TV's volume. "And a look at your local forecast," the news anchor was saying. "San Diego is heading for a high of 82 degrees today. Please remember to stay hydrated and cool." Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, landing right where he was sitting. He felt a little too warm. This was his honeymoon. Sitting alone in a 1,300-square-foot condo, listening to the weather forecast, watching the sun move across the tile floor. And his husband, at this very moment, was flying with another woman to the place they were supposed to go together. Michael picked up the plate of cherries from the coffee table, walked to the kitchen, and emptied the entire plate into the trash can. He washed the white ceramic plate, dried it, and put it back in the cabinet. His movements were light, soundless. The house was as quiet as if no one had ever lived there at all. June 3rd, 22 hours after the flight departed, Michael sat at the computer in the study and opened Alex's email. He knew the password, not because he had snooped, but because Alex had once asked him to check for his physical exam results from the base and had told him the password then, AS198903116. His initials and birthday, Alex had never changed it. There were over 400 unread emails in the inbox. Michael didn't bother scrolling. He typed Claire Lynn into the search bar. 3 seconds later, 17 emails appeared. The earliest was from January 9th of this year, the 3rd month of their marriage. He didn't click on it right away. He opened a new note on his phone, titled it 6 halves, and then began to read, one by one. The first email, January 9th, from Claire Lynn. Subject: I'm here. The body was a single line. Landed. Everything's fine. Don't worry. Alex's reply: good to hear. Get some rest. The third email, February 14th. No subject. The body was a picture of a coffee with a lopsided heart drawn in the foam. No text. Alex's reply: nice artwork. The seventh email, March 20th, from Claire. That project you mentioned? I can help connect you on my end. Have time for a call Saturday? Alex's reply: Saturday, 3 p.m. Michael's fingers paused on the mouse. March 20th, a Saturday. He remembered that Saturday. Alex had said he had to go to the base for some urgent work and told him not to wait for him for dinner. He had made a pot of short rib soup and waited until 9 p.m. The soup went from hot to cold, then was reheated and went cold again. Alex had come home after he had already fallen asleep. He continued reading. The 11th email, April 15th, from Claire. The body was long. Michael's eyes scanned it and stopped on a middle paragraph. Sometimes I think I was too rash, leaving like that back then. If I hadn't gone abroad, what do you think would have become of us? Alex's reply was a single sentence. Don't think about that. Focus on the now. Michael took a screenshot of the email and saved it to his phone. The 15th email, May 20th, 13 days ago, from Claire. Visa came through. Did you book it? Alex's reply: booked. Business class. Are you flying here for a layover or should I book you a direct flight? Claire: direct is easier. I'll book it myself, don't worry about the cost. Alex: already bought it. Same flight as me. San Diego direct to Bali. Get to SD the day before, I'll arrange a car. Michael's breathing didn't change. His hand was steady as he took a screenshot and pasted it into his note. The last email. May 28th, 4 days ago. Claire: see you tomorrow. Alex: see you tomorrow. Get some rest. The send time was 11:43 p.m. Michael remembered what he was doing at 11:43 p.m. that night. He was lying in bed, his back to Alex, listening to the sound of his fingers swiping on his phone screen. He had thought Alex was reading the news. He closed the email client without deleting anything or marking the messages as read. He cleared his browser history. His phone now held 14 screenshots. He locked the phone and placed it on the desk. He then placed his hands flat on either side of the keyboard, fingers together, and stared at his own fingertips. His nails were neatly trimmed. With a clear coat of polish, Alex had once said he disliked strong colors. He clenched his fists, his knuckles cracking softly. Then he stood up. June 3rd, afternoon. Michael pulled open the bottom drawer of the study desk. Inside was a folder he had organized when they got married, containing their marriage license, social security information, copies of the deed to the condo, the car title, and the agreements for 2 bank accounts. He took the entire folder out and laid the contents on the desk, going through them one by one. Condo deed owner, Alex Stanton. Car title owner, Alex Stanton. Bank accounts, 2. One was Alex's salary account. The other was a joint household account, under Michael's name but linked to Alex's phone number for text alerts. At the very bottom, he found something he had almost forgotten. A certificate of deposit from Bank of America for $75,000, maturing on July 1st. These were his premarital savings. When they got married, he had rolled it into a linked account under their household finances. At the time, he thought it was a gesture of trust. Now, he needed it back. He opened the Bank of America app, entered his password, and went to the CD page. It had 28 days left until maturity. Cashing it out early would cost him 3 months of interest. He clicked early withdrawal. A confirmation box popped up. Are you sure? Early withdrawal will result in a loss of approximately $420 in interest earnings. He clicked confirm. $74,580. Funds would be available tomorrow. Next, he opened the page for their joint checking account. Balance, $8,743.16. This was their monthly household budget, or rather, his monthly allowance. Alex's Navy salary was direct deposited into his own account. He transferred $8,000 every month to this household account. The extra money was from the freelance translation gigs Michael occasionally took on. He transferred the entire $8,743.16 to a separate personal account at another bank. Then, He disabled the Zelle and mobile payment features for the joint account. And then, he went into his phone settings and unlinked Alex's number from receiving any text alerts for that account. After completing these 3 steps, he glanced at the time. 2:17 p.m. He still had time. June 3rd, 3 p.m. Michael made a call. Jessica? Are you busy? Mike, hey. No, what's up? Aren't you supposed to be on your honeymoon? It didn't happen. Is it a good time to talk? Of course I'm at home. What's wrong? You sound off. I need you to do something for me. Anything. I need a lawyer. A good one. For a divorce. There was a 3-second silence on the other end. Michael, what happened? Just find me one. Preferably someone who's handled military divorces before. Okay, I'll call you back this afternoon. Thanks. He hung up. Jessica called back an hour and a half later. Got one. His name is David Chen, a partner at Sterling and Dunn. He handled a big military divorce case last year. Got a good settlement. I'll text you his contact info. Okay. Mike. I'm fine. I'll tell you everything when this is over. He hung up and opened his messenger to add David Chen. The lawyer accepted his request 10 minutes later. Michael typed, Mr. Chen, my name is Michael Tran, a friend of Jessica's. I need to consult you regarding the procedure for a military divorce. My spouse is an active duty officer, rank of commander. I have evidence of infidelity, including recorded airline calls, email screenshots, and flight records. When would be a good time to meet? The reply came quickly. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. works. Bring all the materials you mentioned. Michael typed, thank you. He put his phone down. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the sunlight was fading, casting long orange-red shadows across the floor. He sat in the study, leaning back against the ergonomic cushion he had bought online because Alex complained of back pain from sitting too long. He pulled the cushion out from behind him and tossed it aside. June 3rd, 9 p.m. He opened his laptop and searched for job sites in Sydney, Australia. In the search bar, he typed, Chinese, English translator, location Sydney CBD. Over 40 results appeared. He went through them one by one, filtering out the ones that required permanent residency and the part-time gigs. He was left with 3. One was an in-house translator for an accounting firm. One was a document translator for an immigration law firm. And the third was a contract position for the Australian National Audit Office. It required a NADI Level 3 certification. Michael's NADI Level 3 certificate was from 2 years ago. He had earned it before he was married, back when he was a full-time translator, making $6,000 a month. After they got married, Alex said he didn't need to work, that they didn't need the money, so he quit. The certificate was still valid. He saved the links for all 3 positions. Then he opened the Australian immigration website. His working holiday visa, WHV, which he had applied for and won in the lottery 2 years ago, had never been used. Its validity extended until the end of this year. It was still usable. He went to the Qantas website and searched for flights from Los Angeles to Sydney. There was a direct flight on June 5th, 2 days from now. There were still seats in economy. He didn't book it immediately. He needed to confirm one thing. How long was Alex's trip to Bali? He opened Alex's email. Alex hadn't changed the password. The session from his morning login hadn't expired. He searched for hotel. A confirmation email popped up. A resort in Ubud, Bali. Check-in, June 2nd. Check-out, June 7th. 5 nights. That meant Alex wouldn't be back until the 7th. Today was June 3rd. He had 4 days. He closed the email, went back to the Qantas website, and selected the June 5th direct flight to Sydney. Economy, one way, one person. His credit card was charged $487. The booking was confirmed. June 4th, 10 a.m. David Chen's office was on the 19th floor of a downtown high-rise. Michael arrived on time. Chen was in his 40s, with a sharp haircut and a rapid way of speaking. He leafed through the materials Michael brought. A transcript of the airline call, printouts of the email screenshots, flight information, and bank transfer records. Your husband is a commander in the Navy? Yes, active duty. And you're sure you want to file? Military divorces have special protections. If the service member doesn't consent, the court usually won't grant it. Unless there's proof of gross misconduct, Chen finished, looking up at him. The exception to the Service Members Civil Relief Act. These emails prove an emotional affair and close contact. But if he denies a physical relationship, The boarding records for UA 3251 can be subpoenaed, both on the same flight, same class, to Bali. The hotel booking was for one villa, Michael said, his voice as flat as if he were reciting data. If necessary, I can authorize you to file a motion to obtain his entry and exit records upon his return. Chen put the printouts down. You've prepared thoroughly. I have one more question. Go ahead. If I leave the country during the legal proceedings, will it affect the case? You're the plaintiff. If you give me full power of attorney, it won't be an issue. You would only need to be present for the hearing, or you can petition to appear via video conference. Courts are very open to that now. Good. He took a printed document from his bag. I prepared this last night. It's a power of attorney. Can you check if the format is correct? Chen took it and glanced at it for a few seconds. A corner of his mouth twitched, not in a smile but in surprise. It's perfect. Just sign here. Michael signed his name. The pen strokes were steady. How would you like to handle the retainer? One payment. He took out his phone and opened his banking app. Wire transfer or Zelle? Zelle is fine. The ping of the $3,800 transfer confirmation sounded a moment later. Chen filed away the power of attorney. I'll file the petition on June 8th. The court will serve him after he returns. One thing you should be prepared for. His command will likely try to intervene and push for mediation. I'm aware. The mediation period for a military divorce is typically 3 to 6 months. If he refuses to agree, he will agree, Michael said. Chen looked at him. Michael stood up and slung his bag over his shoulder. Thank you, Mr. Chen. We'll be in touch. He left. June 4th, afternoon. Back home, Michael pulled the 2 8-inch silver suitcase out from the walk-in closet again. This time, he was only packing for himself. Not many clothes. A few t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, a light jacket. June was winter in Sydney. He would need something warmer. He searched his closet. Most of his fall and winter clothes were from before the marriage. The styles were a bit dated, but they were still wearable. He opened the bathroom cabinet and took out his own toiletries. Toothbrush, face cream, makeup remover, a pack of birth control pills. He glanced at it. 11 pills left. He had been the one taking them since the wedding. Alex had never once asked about it. He threw the pill pack into the trash. The passport. He went to the entryway and opened the side pocket of Alex's black handbag. 2 passports were inside, where he had placed them 3 days ago. He took out his own, flipping it open. The expiration date was 3 years away. He didn't touch the other one. When he closed the suitcase, it was still a third empty. His entire life didn't fill a 2 8-inch suitcase. June 4th, 8 p.m. Michael cleaned the house one last time. Not for Alex, but for himself. It was his habit to leave a place as he found it. He wiped down the kitchen twice. He threw out anything in the fridge that would expire, leaving only an unopened carton of milk and a few eggs. He tied up the trash bag and took it downstairs. The living room coffee table was clean. The white ceramic plate was back in its original spot, empty. In the study, he only went in to retrieve his NADI certificate and a few professional dictionaries. He didn't touch any of Alex's files. He shut down the computer and pushed the chair back into place. He made the bed in the bedroom, folding the comforter neatly and arranging the pillows. The picture frame on the nightstand, the one that was face down, he hesitated for a second, then turned it over so Alex would see it when he got back. Finally, he stood in the entryway, changing his shoes. The top shelf of the shoe cabinet held Alex's shoes. The bottom shelf held his. His pairs were already packed. The bottom shelf now had 4 empty slots. He took out his house keys, a fob, and 2 physical keys. He placed his set on the entryway console, right next to Alex's black handbag. Inside the handbag's side pocket was Alex's passport. Next to the keys, he placed one more thing, his copy of the marriage license. He left it open to the page with their picture, face up. He left nothing else. No note, no text, no explanation. June 5th, 6 a.m. A private car service was waiting at the community gate. Michael pulled the silver suitcase out of the building. The sound of the wheels on the stone path was sharp in the quiet morning. He got in the car. LAX, Terminal B, please. As the car pulled away from the gate, he glanced in the rearview mirror at the building. 18th floor, 3rd window from the left. The floor-to-ceiling window of their living room. The curtains were drawn. You couldn't see anything from the outside. He turned his head and looked at the road ahead. His phone lit up. A message from Alex. Meeting's running late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner. He was still sending messages like this. From a hotel in Bali, still maintaining the lie that he was in a meeting at the base. Michael looked at the text. His thumb hovered over the screen for a second. He typed one word, "Okay, send." Then he went into his settings, found the conversation with Alex, and muted the notifications. Outside the car window, the city receded. The morning rush hour hadn't started yet. The road was clear. A bright white line stretched across the horizon, where the sun was about to rise. Michael put his phone in his bag. His flight was at 9 a.m. 12 hours later, he would land in Sydney. It would be 11 p.m. local time. He had booked a bed at a youth hostel near the airport online. $80 odd for the first night. He hadn't told anyone where he was going. Jessica only knew he was going away for a while. His lawyer had his future Australian phone number, but he hadn't bought a SIM card yet. He would do that after landing. Right now, 1,000 miles away in Bali, Alex was probably by the hotel pool, or having breakfast with Claire Lynn, or maybe still sleeping. He didn't know that Michael was no longer in that house. He didn't know the joint account had been emptied. He didn't know a lawyer was already preparing to file a divorce petition. He didn't know that when he returned, he would be met with a set of keys on a console, an open marriage license, and a half-empty closet. He knew nothing. He thought Michael was still at home, waiting for him. Like he had for the past 11 months, cooking his meals, ironing his shirts, watering his plants, wiping his tables, waiting for him to come home and grunt an Michael leaned back against the seat and closed his eyes. This was the last time he would wake up in the morning in this city. The taxi turned onto the freeway. June 7th, 9 p.m. Alex inserted his key into the lock and turned. The entryway light didn't come on. He flipped the switch. Light flooded the empty console. On the console was a set of keys. His gaze froze for half a second. It was Michael's set, the spare fob and house keys, threaded through a white lanyard he didn't recognize, placed neatly beside his own black handbag. Next to it was a red-covered document. He picked it up. The marriage license. Open to the photo page. Alex stood there for 5 seconds, holding the license. Michael? No one answered. He changed his shoes and strode into the living room. The sofa was empty. The white ceramic plate was on the coffee table, also empty. The TV was off. Michael? The kitchen was empty. The counters were wiped spotlessly clean, without a single drop of water. He pulled open the fridge. It was almost bare. A single carton of milk and a few eggs remained. The study. The computer was off. The file rack was untouched. But he glanced at the second shelf of the bookcase and noticed several books were missing. He walked into the bedroom. The bed was made, the comforter folded squarely. The pillows were perfectly placed, one on the left, one on the right. He pulled open the closet. The left side, his side, was untouched. The right side, Michael's side, was empty. Not completely. A few pieces of clothing he didn't recognize were still there, but most of the shelves showed their wooden base. He pulled open the drawers below, underwear and pajamas, all gone. He glanced back at the nightstand. The picture frame had been turned over. The wedding photo was facing up. Alex's jaw tightened. He pulled out his phone and dialed Michael's number. The number you have dialed has been switched off. He dialed again. The number you have dialed has been switched off. He opened his text messages. The last conversation was from the morning of June 5th. His message, "Meeting's running late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner." Michael's reply, "Okay." Nothing after that. He sent a new message. "Where are you?" It's sent. A small gray exclamation mark appeared next to it. The recipient has notifications silenced, but the message was delivered. No reply. He sent another. "Call me." Gray exclamation mark. No reply. Alex stood in the middle of the bedroom, clutching his phone, his knuckles white. He called Jessica. After 3 rings, she answered. "Hello? It's Alex Stanton. Is Michael with you?" There was a 2-second pause. "No. Where is he?" "I don't know. You're his best friend, he didn't contact you?" "Alex," Jessica's voice changed, losing its polite tone. "Before you ask me, maybe you should ask yourself. You don't even know when your own husband left." He didn't speak. "He didn't tell me where he went. If he wanted you to know, he would have told you himself." Jessica hung up. Alex lowered the phone from his ear. The screen glowed with the call-ended interface. Call duration, 4-7 seconds. He walked back to the entryway and picked up the keys again. The lanyard was new, not one he had seen before. Michael had used a new lanyard to string the keys together before leaving them. This wasn't an impulsive act. He closed the marriage license. His palm pressed down on the red cover for a long time. June 7th. Same time. Sydney. Michael sat in the common area of the youth hostel, his laptop open. On the screen was the draft of an email in English. Dear hiring manager, I am writing to express my interest in the position of contract translator at the Australian National Audit Office. He wrote a paragraph, then paused, moving the cursor back to the second line. He deleted extensive experience and replaced it with 5 years of certified practice. On the table next to him was a cup of instant coffee from a convenience store. It was cold. He had been in Sydney for 2 days. The first day, he bought a SIM card and opened a local bank account, converting the money he had wired from the US into Australian dollars. The second day, he went to 3 translation agencies to drop off his resume. One of them had him take a written test on the spot. Today was the third day. He was writing the cover letter for the Australian National Audit Office position. His phone lit up. He glanced at it. A new text message from Alex. Where are you? He looked at it for a second, then flipped the phone face down on the table and continued typing. 5 minutes later, the phone lit up again. He ignored it. The cover letter was finished. He proofread it, changed 2 prepositions, checked the formatting, and clicked send. The email was sent at 10:12 p.m. Sydney time. He closed his laptop, picked up the cold coffee, and took a sip. Then he picked up his phone and looked at the messages. 2 of them. Where are you? Call me. He scrolled up in the conversation. The last message he had sent was okay. From the back of the taxi on the way to the airport on June 5th. He exited the conversation without replying. June 8th, San Diego. Alex woke up at 6 a.m. and splashed cold water on his face. The man in the mirror had faint dark circles under his eyes. He had barely slept last night, tossing and turning until 3 a.m. It wasn't jet lag. The 5-day trip to Bali hadn't caused any. It was because he checked his phone every half hour. No reply. He put on his uniform and left. He had a regular morning meeting and had to submit a training plan to the division commander in the afternoon. His daily routine at the naval base was no different from usual. But at 10 a.m., he did something unusual. He had his driver take him to the translation agency in downtown San Diego where Michael used to work. The receptionist was a young woman who didn't recognize him. Can I help you? Does Michael Tran still work here? The receptionist checked her computer. Michael Tran. He resigned at the end of last year. He's no longer with us. Do you have a new contact for him? Sir, I'm sorry. We can't disclose former employees' personal information. I'm his husband. The receptionist looked up at him, a Navy commander in full dress uniform. Her eyes widened, clearly intimidated, but she still shook her head. I apologize, but we really don't have his contact information after he left. Alex turned and walked out. In the car, he dialed Michael's number again, switched off. He opened his messenger and scrolled through their mutual contacts. The list was short. Michael's social circle was small. Besides Jessica, the only other people he could think of were Michael's parents. He hesitated for 3 seconds, then dialed his father-in-law's number. Dad, it's Alex. Alex, what's up? His father-in-law's voice was carefully cheerful. Has Michael been in touch with you recently? He has. He called 2 days ago. Said you two went to Australia for your honeymoon and told us not to worry. Alex's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. He said, Australia? Yeah, said the scenery was beautiful. What, are you not with him? I am. The signal is just bad here. I'll have him call you back. He hung up. Australia. He sat in the back of the car, holding his phone. His thumb pressed the search bar and he typed, Recent flights San Diego to Australia. June 9th. Sydney. Michael walked into the Collins & Associates translation firm on the 14th floor of an office building in Martin Place. The agency he had tested at yesterday had called him back for an interview today. The interviewer was an Australian woman in her 50s, with short hair and red-framed glasses. She spoke quickly. Your test results were excellent. 98% accuracy, the highest among this batch of applicants. But I have one question. Michael sat opposite her, his back straight, hands folded in his lap. Your resume shows you have a NATI Level 3 certification. But there's a 1-year gap in your employment history. Why is that? Personal reasons. They've been resolved. The interviewer looked at him but didn't press further. The pace here is fast. The turnaround for commercial documents is usually within 48 hours. Can you handle overtime? Yes, you can start next Monday. 3-month probationary period. Pay is 42 AUD per hour. If you pass, you'll be offered a permanent position. I accept. The interviewer stood up and shook his hand. Welcome aboard, Michael. Leaving the building, Michael passed a convenience store in the lobby and bought a hot latte. Sunlight streamed through the glass doors. It was winter in Sydney, the temperature only in the mid-50s, but the sky was a clean, brilliant blue. He took a sip of the coffee. It was hot, a slight burn on the tip of his tongue. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen. A U.S. number. The caller ID said Alex Stanton. He watched the name flash 6 times, then he pressed decline. June 9th. San Diego. 11 p.m. The number you have dialed is busy. Alex held the phone to his ear. He was standing on the balcony, his uniform jacket still on. He had just returned from the command headquarters, a half-signed document still clutched in his hand. He dialed again. Ring, ring, ring. The long tones rang for more than a dozen seconds. No one answered. He tapped his phone against the balcony railing. Not hard, but the sound of the screen hitting the metal was sharp. Declined. That was different from being switched off. The first call had rung 6 times and then disconnected. He had declined it. He had seen the call. He had seen his name. And he had chosen not to answer. Alex walked back into the living room. The house was quiet. Not the quiet of no one talking, but a physical emptiness. There was no clatter from the kitchen, no whir of the washing machine, no sound of water splashing on leaves as he watered the plants on the balcony. He had never noticed those sounds before, but now that they were gone, their absence was deafening. He walked to the kitchen and opened the fridge. The milk had expired. The eggs were still there, but he had no idea when they were put in. They might be bad. The category labels on the fridge door were still there. Dairy, vegetables, meat, condiments. Michael's neat, rounded handwriting. He closed the fridge and opened a food delivery app. He ordered some fast food. When he placed the order, the address defaulted to this condo. The system had saved it. He suddenly realized Michael had set up this account for him. The delivery address, the phone number, the note, please leave at the door, no need to knock. Michael had set it all up. Alex had never ordered delivery before. He didn't need to. June 11th, Sydney. Michael's first day at work. Collins & Associates was an open-plan office on the 14th floor. His desk was by the window. Next to him sat a young woman from India named Priya, who translated Hindi. She smiled at him as he sat down and pushed a package of Tim Tam biscuits toward him. First day survival kit. Michael smiled and took one. His morning task was a 20-page business contract, a joint venture agreement between a Chinese mining company and an Australian partner. It was dense with technical terms, but he translated it quickly. He had crammed similar texts for months while preparing for his NATI exam. The muscle memory was still there. During his lunch break, he bought a sandwich and ate it on a bench in Martin Place. Someone was playing a guitar in the square, the melody lazy and slightly out of tune. Pigeons strutted around his feet. He took a bite of his sandwich and glanced at his phone. 3 new messages, all from Alex. The first, from last night at 11 p.m. Answer the phone. The second, from this morning at 7 a.m., San Diego time. Where the hell are you? Come back and talk this out. The third, from 9 a.m. this morning. Michael, if you don't respond, I'm reporting you as a missing person. He finished reading, ate the rest of his sandwich, balled up the wrapper, and tossed it into a nearby trash can. Then he opened his messenger and typed 2 words. Don't bother. Send. He knew Alex would see those 2 words. He would know he wasn't hurt, wasn't missing, wasn't in any trouble. He just didn't want to be bothered. After sending the message, he set the conversation back to mute, locked his phone, and put it back in his pocket. June 11th, San Diego, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Alex was in a meeting when his phone vibrated. He glanced down. A message from Michael. 2 words. Don't bother. He stared at the words for 3 seconds. Commander Stanton? An officer across the table prompted him. Continue. He flipped his phone face down on the table. The meeting went on for another 40 minutes. His eyes remained fixed on the document in front of him, but the speed at which he turned the pages slowed noticeably. When the meeting ended, everyone else got up and left. He remained seated. His aide paused at the door. Sir, I've postponed this afternoon's training field coordination until tomorrow. The aide left. Alex picked up his phone again and stared at the 2 words. Don't bother. Don't bother reporting me missing. Don't bother looking. Don't bother worrying. Don't bother me. He had never received such a reply from Michael. For the past 11 months, his responses were always, "Okay, yes, got it, waiting for you." Never more than a few words, but every word was compliant, cooperative. These 2 words were just as short, but the direction was completely reversed. He started typing. He wrote a full line, "You get back here right now." His finger hovered over the send button for 2 seconds, then he deleted it. He typed something else. "Let's talk." He sent it. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No reply. He tapped on Michael's profile picture. He went to his feed. The last post was from 3 months ago, a shared article about the translation industry. The bio was blank. The profile picture was a white camellia. It hadn't changed since they first met. He backed out, then went back in, as if to confirm he still existed in his contacts. Then he did something else. He opened his banking app, intending to transfer money to the joint account. Halfway through, a system message popped up. Mobile payment features for this account have been disabled. Unable to receive transfers. He tried again, same message. He exited the app and called the bank's customer service line. After a 3-minute wait, a representative answered. "Hello, I'd like to check the status of an account. The name is Michael Tran, account number." "Sir, are you the account holder?" "No, I'm his husband." "I'm sorry, sir. For security reasons, we cannot provide account information to anyone other than the account holder. If you need assistance, you can have the account holder call us directly or visit a branch in person. He's not in the country. Then I'd advise you to contact the account holder directly to have him manage the account remotely. Is there anything else I can help you with?" He hung up. The mobile payments were disabled. That meant the account was no longer connected to him in any way. His phone number had been unlinked. He couldn't deposit money, nor could he check the balance. When did he do this? He tried to reconstruct the timeline. Sometime before June 5th, he had done it while he was still at home. While he was saying okay and got it to his face, he was already unlinking his phone number. Alex placed his phone on the desk and pressed the heels of his hands against his forehead. He closed his eyes for a moment. The silicone coaster on the study desk, where Michael used to place his soup, was bare. June 13th, Sydney. Michael received an interview invitation for the contract translator position at the Australian National Audit Office. The email arrived at 9 a.m., scheduling the interview for 3 days from now, Monday, at 2 p.m. It requested he bring his original NAAT certificate, samples of past translation projects, and 2 letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation. His former supervisor could provide one. For the other, he thought for a moment, then opened LinkedIn and found his university mentor, an Australian Chinese professor who taught translation studies at the University of Sydney. He sent him a message. 2 hours later, he got a reply. "Of course, Michael. Send me your updated CV and I'll have it ready by Friday." He replied, "Thank you, Professor Chen," and closed LinkedIn. Work at Collins & Associates was already in full swing. On his 3rd day, he finished the 20-page joint venture agreement. His supervisor reviewed it, said nothing, and simply pushed a much thicker document toward him. A bid for a government procurement project. "Michael, deadline is the day after tomorrow." He opened the file and began to work. June 13th, San Diego. Alex went to Michael's parents' house for the 3rd time. The first 2 times he had stopped by under the pretext of being in the neighborhood, trying to coax more information out of them. But the elderly couple only knew that their son was on vacation in Australia, and that Michael called them every other day. Alex had already confirmed this. His mother-in-law had even told him, "Michael said the signal is bad over there, so sometimes he can't get your calls." He said not to worry. He had even prepared a script for his parents. The 3rd time he visited, his mother-in-law made him a bowl of noodles. He sat at the dining table, a steaming bowl of chicken pho in front of him. His father-in-law was watching TV nearby. "So, Alex, when are you 2 coming back?" "It might be a bit longer than planned," he said. "Soon." He ate the noodles. The flavor was different from Michael's. Michael used white pepper. His mother-in-law used black. He had never noticed what spices Michael used in his cooking. As he was leaving their neighborhood, he stood by the road for a while. It was already hot in San Diego in June. His uniform was sticking to his back, sweat beading at his temples. He took out his phone and opened his messenger. Michael's profile picture was still the white camellia. The last message in their chat was still his. "Don't bother." His follow-up, "Let's talk," was marked as read, but there was no reply. He sent another message. "What do you want?" After sending it, he stared at the words. A minute later, he added another. Come back. We can work anything out. This time, he waited for a long time. He waited until he had driven back to his quarters at the base. His phone never lit up again. June 18th. Alex sat on the sofa in the office of the base's chief of staff. Across from him, Admiral Zhao finished reading the last page of a file, closed it, and pushed it to the center of his desk. Stanton, I'll be direct, the Admiral said, taking off his glasses. You want to use official channels to look up your spouse's travel records. I can't authorize that. Admiral, he's abroad and I can't reach him. I need to confirm his safety. His parents say he calls them every other day, Admiral Zhao said, his tone even. He's safe. He just doesn't want to be contacted by you. This is not a matter for the Navy to get involved in. Alex's hand rested on the arm of the sofa, his middle finger tapping lightly. Then I'll go through civilian law enforcement channels. I would advise against that, the Admiral said, putting his glasses back on. You're a commander, using your position to investigate your spouse's movements. If someone were to report that, it wouldn't look good on your record. And with the Fleet Command's promotion review board coming up at the end of the year, you want to be on that list, don't you? Alex didn't reply immediately. The Admiral added, marital problems are to be solved at home, behind closed doors. Don't drag the service into it. He's not at home. Then wait for him to come back. Admiral Zhao stood up, picked up his teacup, and took a sip, a clear signal of dismissal. Stanton, let me put it bluntly. At your age, in your position, if you can't handle your domestic affairs, the fallout doesn't just affect you. Alex stood up. I understand, sir. He left the Chief of Staff's building and stood in the corridor for a few seconds. Sunlight streamed through the columns, cutting the ground into strips of light. He stood in the shadows, took out his phone, and glanced at his messenger. The conversation with Michael was as silent as a grave. The last message was still, don't bother, from June 11th. He exited the app, opened his contacts, and found a name, Luke Evans, a lieutenant commander in the Naval Intelligence Office, a classmate from the Naval Academy. They were on reasonably good terms. The Chief of Staff wasn't the only one who could pull travel records, as long as you had the right connections. He dialed. Luke? It's Alex Stanton. You busy? Let's grab a drink at lunch. June 18th. Sydney. Michael sat in a conference room on the 8th floor of the Australian National Audit Office. The interviewers were a panel of 3, the project lead, a senior auditor, and a representative from HR. His resume, NADI certificate, and 2 letters of recommendation were spread out on the table. The project lead was an Australian man in his 50s, wearing a gray suit. He spoke slowly. Mr. Tran, this position involves translating highly sensitive audit documents related to bilateral government projects. Many of these involve Chinese state-owned enterprises. Are you comfortable working with material that may involve entities connected to the Chinese government or military? Michael's back was straight. Yes, I have no conflict of interest. Can you elaborate? Your CV shows you were previously based in San Diego, a significant military hub. I am aware. My previous work was in commercial translation. I have no affiliations with any government or military entity in the United States. The senior auditor, who had been flipping through his translation samples, interjected. Your sample translation of the mining joint venture agreement is very clean, but audit terminology is different. Have you worked with ANAO standard reporting formats before? No, but I reviewed your published audit reports over the past week. I've prepared a mock translation based on your 2022 to 2023 annual performance statement. He pulled 3 pages from his folder and pushed them to the center of the table. The 3 interviewers exchanged a look. The project lead picked up the pages and scanned them quickly, his eyebrows lifting slightly. You did this on your own initiative? Yes. The interview continued for another 20 minutes. At the end, the project lead shook his hand. We'll be in touch within the week. As Michael left the building, a light winter rain had begun to fall in Sydney. He didn't have an umbrella. He waited under the portico for a moment, but the rain showed no signs of letting up. He pulled up the hood of his jacket and walked into the rain. June 20th, San Diego. Alex took Luke Evans to lunch at an inconspicuous private dining restaurant north of the city. It was a small room, just the 2 of them. After a few drinks, Alex brought up the real reason for the meeting. Luke, I need to look up someone's travel records. Luke put down his chopsticks and looked at him. Who? My husband. Luke's eyebrows twitched, but he didn't speak, waiting for Alex to continue. He's in Australia right now. His phone's off. He's not answering messages. I need to confirm his exact location, which airport he left from, when, and his destination. Stanton, You know this isn't exactly by the book. I know. But I'm not asking you to go through official channels. Just an internal query. His name is Michael Tran. I have his passport number. Luke picked up his wine glass and swirled it, not drinking. You two having problems? It's a domestic issue. A misunderstanding. If I can just find him, I can fix it. Luke was silent for a few more seconds. All right. I'll see what I can find. But listen, Stanton. The systems are tight these days. Every query leaves a log. I can get you his departure information, but don't ask me to track his movements overseas. That requires an international cooperative request, and I don't have that kind of clearance. The departure info is enough, thank you. Give me 2 days. June 22nd. Luke sent a text message to Alex's personal phone. Michael Tran, passport number G58XXXXXXX, departed LAX, June 5th, destination, Sydney, Australia, flight QF12, economy class, single passenger, June 5th. The 4th day he was in Bali, the day Michael left. Single passenger, economy class. Alex sat in his office, staring at the text message. Outside, he could hear the rhythmic chants of soldiers jogging on the training field. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the morning of June 5th, he had texted Michael, "Meeting's running late tonight. Don't wait up for dinner." Michael had replied, "Okay," and then he had gone to the airport. Alex clutched his phone, the screen warming from the sweat of his palm. He started thinking about something else. What was Michael doing in Sydney? He knew about Michael's NAIDI certificate. He had mentioned it once before they were married. He also vaguely remembered something about a working holiday visa, applied for 2 years ago, won in the lottery, but never used. He had said something like, "What would you even do over there?" And Michael had never brought it up again. Now, he was using it. He opened his laptop, logged into his email, and searched for Michael Tran. Nothing. Michael had never sent him an email. Then he remembered something. Michael knew his email password. He had told it to him when he asked him to check for his physical exam results. He had never changed it. He quickly navigated to his email's login history page. Recent logins. June 1, 9:15 a.m. IP XXXXXXXXXXX San Diego, CA. This device. June 3, 1:42 p.m. IP XXXXXXXXXX San Diego, CA. June 3, 2:08 p.m. IP XXX San Diego, CA. 2 logins on the afternoon of June 3rd. While he wasn't home, Michael had opened his email. Alex's back muscles tightened, layer by layer. He didn't need to guess what Michael had seen. The emails with Claire Lynn were all there. The flight booking, the hotel confirmation, every single exchange. He had seen it all. Not guesswork, not rumors. He had read it, in black and white, email by email. And then he hadn't thrown a fit, hadn't cried, hadn't called to confront him. He had transferred the money, disabled the account, contacted a lawyer, booked a flight, and left. All of it done between June 3rd and June 5th. 48 hours. And during those 48 hours, he had still replied to his messages. Okay, got it. Alex stood up so forcefully that his chair slid back 2 feet, the wheels screeching against the floor, a jarring sound in the quiet office. He walked to the window and leaned on the sill, his knuckles white. June 23rd. The court summons arrived. It wasn't sent to his home. It was delivered through the base's chief of staff. A notice of petition for a military divorce. Plaintiff, Michael Tran. Defendant, Alex Stanton. When Admiral Zhao called him into his office, his expression was no longer gentle. "Stanton, I've read the petition," the Admiral said, pushing a copy across the desk. "Take a look." Alex picked it up. The petition was professionally written. Plaintiff, Michael Tran. Legal counsel, David Chen. Grounds for divorce. Defendant committed gross marital misconduct, maintaining an improper relationship with a third party, Claire Lynn. Specific evidence included records of traveling on the same flight and in the same class, hotel cohabitation records, and long-term communication records. The plaintiff requested a judgment of divorce, division of community property, and punitive damages from the defendant. He flipped through the pages, his fingers pausing at the evidence list. Flight UA 3251, business class. Passenger manifest confirmed via airline customer service. Alila Villas, Ubud, Bali, booking confirmation email screenshot. Screenshots of correspondence between defendant and third party from defendant's email account, January to May 2024. Total: 14 images. 14 screenshots. The 2 times he had logged into his email on the afternoon of June 3rd, a 6-minute window. Enough time to screenshot every single email. Admiral Zhao's voice came from across the desk. In military divorce cases, the court doesn't grant them easily. But once a petition is filed, the base's Internal Affairs and Disciplinary Committee must launch an investigation. You know what that means. Alex didn't look up. Stanton, the admiral's tone grew heavy, the promotion review board at the end of the year. If you have an open disciplinary investigation, your name will not be on that list. He put the petition down. The corner of the paper creased where he had been gripping it. I'll handle it. How? I'll talk to him. The admiral leaned back in his chair. Where is he? Australia. Admiral Zhao said nothing, just looked at him. The meaning in his eyes was clear. Your husband has fled to the other side of the world to file for divorce, and only now you're saying you'll talk to him? June 24th, evening. Alex sat on the sofa in his living room, his laptop open. On the screen was an international flight booking page. The next direct flight from San Diego to Sydney was the day after tomorrow. He didn't book it. Not because he didn't want to go, but because he couldn't. The disciplinary committee had already begun its investigation. His passport had been temporarily confiscated. As a commander, any personal international travel required a chain of approvals, which was now impossible. He was trapped in the country. Did Michael know this would happen? He picked up his phone, hesitated for 3 seconds, opened his messenger, and initiated a video call to Michael. After 15 seconds of ringing, it was declined. He sent a text. I got the papers. If you want a divorce, you can come back and we can talk. A minute later, a reply came. 3 words. Not coming back. He stared at the 3 words and typed, then what do you want? You think the court will grant a default judgment? A military divorce won't be granted without the service member's consent. The reply was fast. I know. Just those 2 words. He waited a minute, then another 2 minutes. Nothing more. He knew. He knew the rules of military divorce. He knew that without his consent, the court wouldn't grant it. But he filed anyway. What did that mean? It meant he didn't want a quick divorce. He wanted the petition itself to exist. He wanted it to sit in his file at the base. He wanted the disciplinary investigation to start. He wanted to block his promotion at the end of the year. He didn't need to win. He just needed the case to exist. Alex placed his phone on the coffee table. The table was empty. Even the white ceramic plate was gone. He had put it away in a cabinet last week. He leaned back on the sofa, tilted his head back, and stared at the ceiling. The natural light fixture was still on. He had never cared who installed it or why they chose that specific color temperature. Now, he sat under its light every night, watching it burn late into the night. June 26th, disciplinary hearing. A small conference room. 2 investigators from Internal Affairs. A recording device. Commander Stanton, based on the case materials forwarded from the San Diego Superior Court, we need to verify the following matters with you. On the 2nd of June 2024, did you travel to Bali on flight UA 3251? Yes. Among the passengers, was there a woman named Claire Lynn? Yes. What is your relationship? Friends. We've known each other since childhood. The evidence provided by the plaintiff indicates you stayed at the same resort in Bali. Did you stay in the same room? Alex's throat moved. No. I booked 2 separate villas. The investigator jotted something down in his notebook, then continued. We have sent a formal inquiry to the hotel to verify this. Additionally, the email screenshots provided by the plaintiff show continuous private correspondence between you and Miss Lynn from January to May 2024. How do you explain this? Normal communication between friends. In one email, the other party mentioned, if I hadn't gone abroad, what do you think would have become of us? Your reply was, don't think about that. Focus on the now. The committee finds this exchange to have ambiguous undertones. Do you have anything to add? Alex's fingers clenched under the table. That was her sentiment. My reply was a rejection of it. All right, we've noted that. Last question. During your trip to Bali, did you truthfully inform your spouse of your itinerary? A 3-second silence. No. The interview is concluded. We will issue a verification report within 7 business days, which you will need to sign. Please remain reachable. As Alex stood up and walked out of the conference room, his steps were half a beat slower than usual. A few officers passing in the hallway glanced at him. People coming out of the disciplinary committee's office always got a second look. He stared straight ahead, and his pace returned to normal. June 28th, Sydney. Michael received the offer from the Australian National Audit Office. The email subject line read, Offer of Engagement, Contract Translator, AML Performance Audit Division. The contract was for 12 months, renewable. Daily rate of 480 AUD. Work location, Sydney CBD. Security clearance. Preliminary background check passed. Full security clearance to be completed within 4 weeks of commencement. He read the email and clicked Accept. Then, he opened his messenger conversation with David Chen. Mr. Chen, I've accepted a job offer. The employer is the Australian National Audit Office. It's a contract translator position, dealing with audit documents for bilateral government projects between China and Australia. Please keep this information on file. It might be useful later. Chen replied quickly. Received. This will be helpful for the case. If the opposing party attempts to apply pressure through informal channels, the fact that your work involves a foreign government agency will significantly limit their options. Michael replied, Understood. He locked his phone. He had 1 week left at Collins & Associates to hand over his work. His start date at the ANAO was July 8th. He had a few days in between. He opened his calendar and on July 3rd he made a note. Call parents. Explain job change. His phone lit up. A new message. It wasn't Alex. It was from David Chen. The Navy's disciplinary committee has begun their investigation. I've also received the defendant's response, forwarded by the court. He does not consent to the divorce and claims the marital bond is not broken. As expected, Michael replied. Proceed as planned. Chen, understood. Also, one more thing. The opposing counsel called our firm today, wanting to meet with me. I refused. But he proposed a mediation, organized by the base's command staff. Michael typed, He wants to mediate, fine. But I'm not returning to the US. Video conference only. Chen, good, I'll relay that. He put down his phone. It was raining again in Sydney. The raindrops drummed on the metal roof of the youth hostel. He was moving out next week. He had found a small room in a shared apartment in Newtown, 320 AUD a week, a 7-minute walk from the train station. He opened a new note on his phone. At the top, he typed, Mediation, key points. Below, he listed 3 lines. Do not accept any form of reconciliation. Do not return to the U.S. Demand the other party sign a consent to divorce declaration. After listing them, he added a 4th line. 4. If he refuses to sign, introduce information about the U.S. military procurement involved in the ANAO audit project. He looked at the 4th line for a few seconds and did not delete it. July 3rd. The video mediation. On the other end of the screen was a conference room at the naval base. Admiral Zhao sat in the middle. Alex sat to his left, next to another man he didn't recognize, likely from the legal department. On his end of the screen was his shared apartment in Sydney. Michael sat at his desk, a plain white wall behind him. David Chen sat beside him, just out of frame. Admiral Zhao spoke first. Mr. Tran, the purpose of this mediation, organized by the command, is to facilitate communication between both parties and hopefully resolve this conflict. You can state your demands directly. Michael didn't speak. David Chen spoke for him. My client's demand is clear: the dissolution of the marriage. A pre-trial settlement agreement has been submitted to the court, which the defendant has refused to sign. If we can reach an agreement today, we can sign the mediation agreement on the spot. Admiral Zhao looked at Alex. Alex's eyes had been fixed on the screen, on Michael's face, the entire time. He was thinner. The line of his cheekbones was more pronounced than a month ago. His hair was cut a little shorter, just to his collarbone. He was wearing a dark gray sweater with a high collar. Michael, he began, his voice lower than usual. Can we talk alone for a minute? Michael looked at the screen. There's nothing we need to say alone. Alex's jaw tightened. He glanced at Admiral Zhao, who gave him a slight nod. He turned back to the camera. Fine. I'll say it in front of everyone. This was my fault. I wasn't honest with you. But there was nothing physical between me and Claire Lynn. The Alila Villas in Ubud, Michael said, his voice cutting through. June 2nd to 7th. You booked 2 villas, Villa 7 and Villa 9. Alex's mouth closed. Villa 7 and Villa 9 are connected, Michael continued, his voice devoid of emotion. There's an internal connecting door. I looked at the hotel's floor plan. You booked the couple's retreat package. 2 villas, 1 private pool. The conference room was silent for 3 seconds. Admiral Zhao's brow furrowed. The legal officer was scribbling furiously in his notebook. Alex's hand rested on the table, his right index finger twitching slightly, a tiny movement of restraint. Michael, I can explain that. Don't. His voice was quiet, but every word was clear. Alex, your window to explain was on the night of June 1st. The moment you stood in our bedroom doorway and told me the flight was canceled because of a meeting, that was your only chance. You didn't take it. He paused for a second. Now, my demand is simple. You sign. Alex stared at the screen. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Admiral Zhao cleared his throat. Mr. Tran, the command's position is that we hope both parties can resolve this amicably. Admiral, Michael's gaze shifted from Alex to him. I understand the command's position, but I'd like to confirm one thing. Is the disciplinary committee's report out yet? The Admiral paused. It's still in process. Then it's not too late to talk again after the report is released. His tone was the same, neither harsh nor soft. My signature is already on the settlement agreement. When he signs, this is over. David Chen added, my client is willing to waive all claims to community property. He is only asking for the dissolution of the marriage. This is the most generous concession possible. Alex's gaze dropped to the table. His right hand was clenched into a fist, his thumb pressing so hard against his index finger that the nail dug into the skin. Admiral Zhao looked at him. Stanton, your response? Alex looked up. I won't sign. Michael watched him. Alex continued. Feelings can't be resolved with a legal document. I admit I was wrong, but this is something we can fix. Is your email password still AS19890316? Alex's words stopped. Your travel plans, your hotel booking, the date and content of every single email between you and her. I saw all of it between 1:42 p.m. and 2:08 p.m. on the afternoon of June 3rd. The day after you arrived in Bali. His voice never rose. What you think can be fixed, I finished seeing in those 26 minutes. No one on the other end of the screen spoke. Michael's gaze moved from Alex's face to David Chen beside him. Chen gave a slight nod. Michael turned back and gave the screen one last look. The mediation ends here. After the disciplinary report is out, the court will schedule the next steps. He reached out and clicked the end call button. The screen went black. Michael sat in his chair, his hands resting beside the keyboard. His fingertips trembled slightly, for less than 2 seconds. Beside him, David Chen said quietly, he'll sign. It's just a matter of time. Michael didn't turn his head. His gaze was fixed on the window. The sky over Sydney was darkening. It got dark by 5 p.m. in the winter. The streetlights came on, a line of orange dots. He opened his laptop and logged into the ANAO's internal system. His first translation project, assigned after he started on July 8th, was already there. A preliminary report on a joint procurement audit between the US and Australian governments. The parties involved included the Australian Department of Defense and the Logistical Support Department of a certain US military command. He glanced at the document. The name of the US unit on the cover, Naval Supply Systems Command, San Diego. Alex's command. He closed the file and logged out. Not yet. July 15th. Michael finished translating the 3rd chapter of the audit report. 47 pages, covering a joint procurement of military supplies in 2023 by the Naval Supply Systems Command in San Diego. The Australian Department of Defense had commissioned the ANAO to conduct a performance audit of its expenditures, which involved reviewing the contract execution by the U.S. counterpart. This included delivery time discrepancies, price variation, traceability, and the qualifications of intermediary agents. The translation itself was a technical task. His job was to accurately translate the original Chinese contracts, the explanatory notes submitted by the U.S. units, and the minutes of bilateral meetings into English for the team of auditors. But as he was translating Section 7 of Chapter 3, he paused. In the contract appendix, there was a document with the business registration information of a U.S.-based agent, company name, Starlight International Trading, LLC. Registered address, La Jolla, San Diego. Legal representative, Claire Lin. Michael stared at the name on the screen. Claire Lin. He moved the mouse over the line and zoomed in. Company incorporation date, September 2023. Registered capital, $500,000. Scope of business, international trade, supply chain management, defense integration consulting. September 2023. the 4th month of his marriage to Alex. He exited the document and opened the ANAO's internal database. He searched for Starlight International. 3 results appeared. One of them was an archived audit finding, marked as medium risk. The summary read, U.S.-based agent Starlight International Trading, LLC, exhibited abnormal price markups during contract execution, with a 37% increase over the benchmark price. Furthermore, a potential related party relationship may exist between the company and the responsible U.S. military procurement officer. Recommend further investigation. The responsible U.S. military procurement officer. He didn't click on the detailed report. He knew the ANAO's security clearance rules. He had the authority to translate these documents, but not to independently access the full investigation chain of an audit finding. But he didn't need to. He already knew who the responsible U.S. military procurement officer was. A joint procurement project for the Naval Supply Systems Command, San Diego, in 2023. Alex's rank was commander, which corresponded to the head of a procurement division. He had looked at Alex's service record before they were married. It stated, current position, director, equipment procurement division, Naval Supply Systems Command, San Diego. The pieces connected. Claire Lynn wasn't just his childhood sweetheart. She was the agent for his procurement projects. Her company, operating within his jurisdiction, had won a military contract, and that contract had a 37% price markup. Michael closed the database, saved the translated document, and submitted it to the project system. Then he picked up his phone and sent a message to David Chen. Mr. Chen, I have new information. It's not related to the divorce case, but to the defendant's professional conduct. Is it a good time to talk? 3 minutes later, Chen called him. Go ahead. Alex is the director of equipment procurement at NavSup San Diego. Claire Lynn owns a company called Starlight International Trading. It was incorporated in September 2023. It was awarded a cross-border military procurement contract. The contract price was 37% higher than the benchmark. There was a 2-second silence on the other end. How do you know this? I'm currently working for the Australian National Audit Office. This information appeared in an audit report I was translating. I did not actively seek out any unauthorized material. It was assigned to me as a translation task. Meaning, this information was obtained legally. Correct. This is more than just a divorce case. Chen's pace quickened. If his procurement approval authority is linked to her company's profits, that's suspicion of using his office for personal gain. In the military system, that's a court-martial offense. I know. How do you want to handle this? Michael didn't answer immediately. He looked out the window. A red double-decker bus was driving down the street in Newtown. A travel company slogan was written on the side. I need you to compile a report, linking the existing evidence from the divorce case with this new information. I need a formal complaint that can be submitted directly to the military's criminal investigation and inspector general departments. Are you sure? Yes. Once this is submitted, it can't be retracted. He could be facing more than just a demotion. He could be facing a prison sentence. I know, Michael said. Chen paused for a second. Okay. Give me 3 days. July 18th. David Chen sent the drafted complaint to Michael via an encrypted email. 14 pages, divided into 3 parts. Part 1. Proof of the relationship between Alex Stanton and Claire Lynn. Email screenshots, travel records, hotel booking information. This was the evidence from the divorce case. Part 2. The connection between Starlight International and the military procurement contract. The company's registration information, with Claire Lynn as the legal representative. The timing of the contract signing, overlapping with Alex's tenure in his position. Part 3. Summary of audit findings. The 37% price markup, the audit's risk flag for a potential related party relationship. In this section, Chen hadn't directly quoted the ANAO's internal documents. Instead, he phrased it as, according to publicly available Australian audit information, and recommended that the investigative body verify this with its Australian counterparts. Michael read it page by page. He corrected a date on page 9. The contract signing date for Starlight was written as the 15th of October 2023. He remembered seeing the 12th of October 2023 in the translation text. He changed it. Then, at the end of the email, he typed 3 words, ready for submission. July 20th. The complaint was submitted via legal channels to the Department of Defense Inspector General's office, with a copy to the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, NCIS, field office in San Diego. On the same day, at the second hearing for the divorce case, David Chen submitted supplementary evidence to the court. Not the complaint itself, but a legal opinion stating a reasonable suspicion that the defendant used his official position to obtain benefits for a third party. After reading it, the judge immediately declared a 1-month recess, pending the results of the military's investigation. This meant two things had been set in motion simultaneously. The divorce case was paused, pending the outcome of the investigation. And the investigation, because of the formal complaint, had to proceed as a full-blown criminal inquiry. The two threads were now intertwined. No matter which one concluded first, Alex had no way out. July 22nd, San Diego. Alex was suspended from duty. The order came down at 10 a.m. The wording was, "For the purpose of cooperating with an organizational investigation, Commander Alex Stanton is temporarily relieved of his duties as Director of the Equipment Procurement Division. He is not to leave the base during the investigation." His aide placed the memo on his desk, stood there for a second without daring to speak, then turned and left. Alex stared at the paper. A 4, printed, the official seal in the bottom right corner. His hand wasn't shaking, but when he placed the hand holding the paper back on the desk, his fingers brushed against the edge, a slight tremor. He stood up and walked to the window. The training field was empty. It was lunchtime. The sailors were all in the mess hall. He took out his phone and opened his messenger. Michael's profile picture. The white camellia. He stared at it for a long time. Then he typed, "You reported me." It wasn't a question. He sent it. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. A reply came. One word. Yes. His hand clenched the phone, the force of his grip making the frame creak. He typed again. "Do you have any idea what this means?" The reply. "Yes. I'll be investigated. I could go to prison. Do you understand that?" "I understand." His breathing became heavy, his chest rising and falling, but he made no sound. His typing speed increased, his fingers jabbing at the screen. "I gave you a home. $30,000 a month for the house. The condo was in my name, but you lived in it. You could drive the car whenever you wanted. What did you ever ask for that I didn't give you? And now you want to destroy everything I have? All because of one trip?" He sent it. After more than 10 seconds, Reed appeared. Then the reply came, shorter than all his other messages. "You gave me $8,000 a month. The markup on the Starlight contract was $4.2 million. Alex's thumb froze on the screen. "You gave me an allowance. You gave her a multi-million-dollar deal." There was no third message. He stared at the two texts. $4.2 million. The 37% markup multiplied by the base contract price. Michael had even done the math. He put his phone on the desk and leaned on it with his hands, his knuckles turning white. Outside, the training field's broadcast system blared the signal for the end of the lunch break. A long, piercing tone. July 25th. NCIS formally interviewed Claire Lynn. On the same day, Starlight International's bank accounts were frozen. David Chen sent Michael a message. "They're moving fast. They've already sent a formal request to the ANAO for the relevant audit materials. Someone on your end will probably come to you to confirm the information. Be prepared." Michael replied with one word. "Okay." At 3 p.m., the ANAO project lead found him. "Michael, we've received a formal request from the U.S. military's investigative authorities. They're asking for access to the audit findings related to the San Diego logistics procurement. Since you translated the relevant chapters, our legal team may need to ask you a few questions about the translation process." "Of course. When?" "Tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. I'll be there." He walked back to his desk and sat down. Priya leaned over from the next desk. "Everything all right?" "Fine." He opened his laptop and pulled up the translation log files he would need for tomorrow, organizing them by date. The translation date, original source, and submission status for every file were all clearly documented. His fingers tapped on the keyboard for a moment, and he opened his calendar. Today was July 25th, exactly 50 days since he had left that home. 50 days ago, he was in that 1,300-square-foot condo, washing dishes, ironing shirts, watering plants, making soup for him. His daily schedule revolved around Alex. What time he left, what time he came back, how perfectly his shirts needed to be ironed, how many of his pills were left. Now, he was sitting on the 13th floor of an office building in Sydney's CBD, translating government audit documents worth hundreds of millions of dollars, earning 480 odd a day. He closed the calendar and continued working. July 28th. Alex received a summons from the military prosecutor's office. The charge: suspicion of using his official position to obtain benefits for others, amount being exceptionally large. Summons date: July 30th, 9 a.m. He sat on the sofa in his living room, staring at the summons. The living room was a mess. He hadn't cleaned in a long time. The coffee table was littered with takeout containers and empty water bottles. The floor was dusty. The natural light fixture was still on, but its light made the room look gray and lifeless. The category labels on the fridge door were still there: dairy, vegetables, meat, condiments, Michael's handwriting. The fridge itself was empty, but no one had torn off the labels. He placed the summons on the coffee table and picked up his phone. In his contacts, he hadn't clicked on Michael's name in a long time. Their last conversation was on July 22nd. He had never replied to those two messages. You gave me $30,000 a month. The markup on the Starlight contract was $4.2 million. You gave me an allowance. You gave her a multi-million-dollar deal. He stared at those two lines. $30,000 a month. He had thought that was generous. When they got married, his mother had said it was a man's duty to provide for his family. He had transferred the money every month and thought it was more than enough. Michael had never asked for more, never complained about it being insufficient. He had thought that meant he was content. $4.2 million. He had helped Claire Lynn's company get the contract. He had signed the approval documents. He hadn't taken a cut of the profits, at least not directly. But in one of Claire's emails she had said, "I'll treat you to a nice dinner after the project is over." During the investigation, that sentence had been circled. He didn't know how a nice dinner would be interpreted, but he knew that when the law started calculating the value of illicit gains, his explanations were meaningless. It was all there in black and white. The base contract price was $11.35 million. The actual executed price was $15.55 million. The difference was $4.2 million. That $4.2 million had flowed into Starlight International's account, and the legal representative of Starlight International was Claire Lynn, the woman he had traveled with and stayed with in Connected Villas. Could he say he hadn't taken a dime? The law didn't care if he had. The law cared if he had approval authority, if there was a related party, and if he had failed to recuse himself. The answers were yes, yes, and yes. Alex flipped his phone face down on the sofa, leaned his head back, and closed his eyes. The house was quiet. The physical emptiness had persisted for 53 days. July 29th. Alex did something. He called David Chen's office. Not Michael, but his lawyer. "Mr. Chen, this is Alex Stanton." There was a pause on the other end. "Commander Stanton, what can I do for you?" "I'll sign the divorce agreement." David Chen didn't respond immediately. "No mediation, no more hearings. Send me the agreement. I'll sign it and mail it back." "All right. I will confirm my client's wishes and get back to you. One more thing." "Go on." "Tell him." Alex paused. Something caught in his throat. He swallowed. "Tell him he doesn't need to withdraw the complaint. I'm not asking him to. Let the process run its course." David Chen was silent for 3 seconds. "I will relay that." Alex hung up. He held the phone in his hand, the screen dark. He sat on the sofa, his head bowed, elbows on his knees. The light in the living room stayed on. July 29th. Sydney, 10 p.m. A message from David Chen arrived. He's agreed to sign. The divorce agreement will be mailed out tomorrow. He also said one more thing. He doesn't need to withdraw the complaint. Let the process run its course. Michael sat in his small room, a glass of water on his nightstand. It was cold. He looked at the message. He touched the ring finger of his left hand. There was no ring there anymore. He had taken it off the day he left San Diego and put it in a side pocket of his suitcase. The day after he arrived in Sydney, he had taken it out and tossed it into his nightstand drawer. Let the process run its course. He finally understood. He replied to David Chen, "Received." Then he placed his phone on the nightstand and turned off the light. Outside, there were still some sounds from the flowing street. The faint music from a distant pub drifted in. He lay in the darkness, his eyes open. On the base of his left ring finger, there was a very faint mark, the trace of the ring he had worn for 11 months. He flexed the finger. The mark would fade. He closed his eyes. October 12th. A message from David Chen arrived at 1 a.m. Sydney time. The divorce decree is out. The court accepted the signed settlement agreement and has granted the dissolution of the marriage. I've sent a scanned copy to your email. Michael saw it the next morning at 7 a.m. He had just woken up, hadn't even brushed his teeth yet. The messages on his phone were lined up. Below Chen's message was another one. Also, just to let you know, the military prosecutor's office has formally indicted Alex Stanton. The charge is abuse of power, involving an amount of $4.2 million. The trial is set for early November. You may be required to provide a written testimony as a witness, but you will not need to appear in person. He put down his phone and went to the bathroom to brush his teeth. The person in the mirror was thinner than he had been 4 months ago in San Diego, but his energy was different. There were no dark circles under his eyes. His shoulders were relaxed. The line of his mouth was straight and calm. After rinsing his mouth, he went back to his room and opened his email. The divorce decree was in the attachments. He downloaded it and opened it. In the Superior Court of California, County of San Diego, the court finds that the marital relationship between the petitioner and the respondent has irretrievably broken down, that the respondent is in gross fault, and has signed the marital settlement agreement. It is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that the marriage between petitioner Michael Tran and respondent Alex Stanton is dissolved. The official seal, the judge's signature, the date. He closed the file. October 15th. The contract renewal confirmation from the ANAO arrived. Dear Michael, we are pleased to confirm the renewal of your engagement for a further 12 months, effective from the 1st of January 2025. He clicked accept. Same as the first time. Priya leaned over from the next desk. Renewed? Yeah. Drinks after work? Sure. At 6 p.m., he, Priya, and 2 other colleagues went to a bar around the corner from Martin Place. He ordered a ginger beer, non-alcoholic. Priya ordered a gin and tonic. So, Michael, how's life? You've been here what, 4 months now? Almost 5. You seem more relaxed than when you started. That first week, you barely looked up from your screen. Michael smiled. The first week, I was scared of making mistakes. And now? Now, I'm just fast. Priya raised her glass and clinked it against his. He took a sip of the ginger beer. The spicy bubbles tingled on his tongue. November teared. David Chen forwarded him a document. A template from the military prosecutor's office for his written testimony as a witness. The content was simple. He needed to confirm the circumstances under which he had encountered the information about Starlight International during his translation work. He needed to confirm his prior relationship with the defendant, and he needed to confirm that he had never had any communication with the defendant about that company before. He wrote out the 3-page statement of facts, following the template. No adjectives. He signed it, took a photo, and sent it back to David Chen. Chen replied with another message. One more thing. Alex's lawyer contacted me. He asked if you would be willing to meet with him before the trial. Michael stared at the message. What did he say? His exact words were, I want to say one thing to him, in person. His lawyer said he's not in a good state, has lost a lot of weight, but this is entirely up to you. You can refuse. He placed his phone on the desk. It was already summer in Sydney. The November sun was bright, making the afternoon feel like noon. He thought for 30 seconds. He typed, okay. Video or in person? Chen asked. He's currently out on bail, no travel restrictions, but long-distance travel is not recommended. If it's convenient for you to return to the US for a trip. Not returning. Video it is. I'll arrange it. November 6th. 3 p.m. Sydney time. 12 p.m. San Diego time. Michael sat at his desk in his shared apartment, his computer on. The link for the video call was sent by David Chen. He clicked it. In the few seconds it took for the video to load, he moved the glass of water on his desk to the side. His left hand rested on the edge of the keyboard, his right hand on the mouse. The screen lit up with an image of a room, not their former home. It looked like a simple, generic rental. The background was a yellowing white wall with a small patch of peeling paint in the corner. Alex sat in front of the camera. The first thing Michael noticed was his face. His cheekbones protruded, his cheeks were hollow, and his eye sockets were deeper than before. He was wearing a dark gray crew neck sweatshirt. Not a uniform, not a dress shirt. He had never worn a sweatshirt before. His hair was longer, not the regulation length for a military officer. When he saw Michael's image appear, his body leaned forward slightly, then he sat back again. They looked at each other through the screen, neither speaking first. The silence lasted for 7 seconds. Alex spoke first. Michael. He didn't respond to the name, his gaze level with the screen. Alex said it again. Michael. Thank you for agreeing to. You said you wanted to say one thing in person. He cut him off, his voice flat. Say it. He closed his mouth, his throat moving. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. He didn't reply. Not because I got caught, it's because. From the very beginning, I never put you in the right place. He looked at him, waiting. You were by my side for 11 months. You cooked, you cleaned, you kept track of my medication. I never once said thank you for any of it. I thought it was. He paused, his fingers moving on the desk as if searching for something to hold. But there was nothing. I thought it was what you were supposed to do. Michael didn't speak. It wasn't until after you left that I realized those things didn't just happen automatically. The light bulbs, what color temperature to get, how the shoe cabinet was organized, why there were labels on the fridge. It was all you. I didn't know any of it. His voice cracked on the last word. Michael waited for 2 seconds to make sure he was finished. Then he spoke. Are you done? Alex looked at him, his lips moving, but no more sound came out. Then I'll say something. His gaze was direct, straight into the camera, which was the same as looking straight into his eyes. Alex, what you just said wasn't an apology. It was you describing what you lost. You said you discovered I changed the light bulbs, that I put the labels on the fridge. You're talking about your inconvenience, not my efforts. His hands, out of the camera's view, tightened. But the line of his shoulders changed. Even now, you're still using those words. Supposed to do. You said, I thought it was what you were supposed to do. You used the past tense. But you don't mean you were wrong back then. You mean you didn't think it was wrong back then. And now, because the consequences are so severe, you've adjusted your language. Alex's mouth clamped shut, his jawline taut. Michael's pace didn't change, neither speeding up nor slowing down. You don't need to apologize to me. Because I don't need your apology to validate that what I did was right. Every step I took leaving, gathering evidence, reporting you, it was never to wait for you to say, I'm sorry. Then what was it for? His voice came out, lower than before. He looked at him. If this question had been asked 4 months ago, he might have given him an answer. He might have said it was for justice, or to cut his losses. But now he didn't need to give him an answer. For myself. It had nothing to do with you. Alex's gaze dropped, falling to a point below the screen that Michael couldn't see. His hands appeared in the frame, resting on the desk, fingers laced, knuckles white. The silence returned, longer this time, 10 seconds, 15. He finally spoke. I know you won't forgive me. I'm not asking for that. I just wanted. Alex. He stopped. I'm not going to forgive you or not forgive you. His voice was very soft. The word forgive implies that this matter is still in my heart, but it's not. What you did, why you did it, how you are now. None of it has anything to do with my life anymore. I took this call today, not because I have any lingering feelings. It's because your lawyer said you wanted to say one thing. I gave you that chance. You've said it. Now I've said my piece. This is the last time we will speak. His right hand moved to the mouse. Alex looked at him through the screen. If you looked closely, the very edge of his eyes was a little red, but he held it back, maintaining a final shred of a soldier's dignity. Okay, his voice was hoarse. A single word. Michael's finger clicked end call. The screen went black. He sat in his chair, his hands on his thighs, palms down, fingers flat. 1 second, 2, 3. Nothing welled up. He wasn't suppressing it. There was truly nothing there. He stood up, went to the kitchen, and poured himself a glass of water. On the street outside his Newtown apartment, someone rode by on a bicycle, its bell ringing twice. He took a sip of water. It was cool, refreshing as it went down his throat. November 8th. Michael pulled his suitcase out of the arrivals hall at Sydney's domestic airport. He had a flight to Melbourne. A new project for the ANAO required him to be there for 2 weeks, translating audit documents for a Victorian infrastructure project. Outside the terminal, the sun was fierce. It was early summer in Sydney in November, the sky a washed-out blue. He pushed his silver suitcase along the sidewalk. The same suitcase that had followed him from San Diego to Sydney, and from Sydney to his shared apartment in Newtown, was now coming with him to Melbourne. The front right wheel was starting to stick. As he waited for a taxi, he glanced down at his left hand. At the base of his ring finger, the faint white line was almost invisible now. He reached into his jacket pocket and felt a small, round, light piece of metal. The wedding ring. He had never thrown it away. He had brought it from San Diego to Sydney, stuffed it in a side pocket of his suitcase for 4 months. He had found it while packing the day before yesterday and had casually put it in his pocket. He took the ring out. The sun glinted off the metal surface. The date engraved on the inside, the 18th of July 2023, their wedding day, was clear in the light. He looked at it in his palm for a second. Then he turned to the side and, with a casual flick of his wrist, tossed it toward the green shrubs lining the road. The ring traced a short arc in the air and disappeared into the low bushes. He didn't watch where it landed. A taxi pulled up in front of him. Where to? Domestic terminal, please. He opened the door, put his suitcase in the back, and got in. The car started moving. Outside the window, the green shrubs receded. Sunlight streamed through the window, landing on his face, his hands, his lap. His left hand rested on his knee. There was nothing on his ring finger. It was clean. 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 I put our passports in your black handbag, Michael called out. Or did I put them in the suitcase? He placed the 2 dark blue passports on the entryway console, his fingertips nudging them until their edges were perfectly aligned. There was no response from the living room. He tilted his head and saw his husband, Alex, sitting on the sofa, phone pressed to his ear. His back was ramrod straight, a posture Michael knew all too well. He was on one of those calls. Michael didn't ask again. He turned and went into the bedroom, placing both passports into the side pocket of the black leather handbag. Next to the bag lay 2 neatly folded dress shirts he'd prepared, one light blue and one white, the 2 colors Alex wore most often. He had already ironed the collars and cuffs, pressing the creases in the places least likely to wrinkle. The suitcase, a 2 8-inch silver hardshell, sat open on the floor. Michael had started packing 3 days ago. Sunscreen, a universal adapter, a box of the blood pressure medication Alex was supposed to take. Alex's pressure had been flagged as high on his last 3 physicals at the naval base, but he never took his medication voluntarily. Michael tucked the pill bottle into the outermost pocket of the toiletry bag, where it would be the first thing he saw. The voice from the living room stopped. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, and Alex appeared in the bedroom doorway. At 6'2", his frame filled most of the opening. He glanced down at the open suitcase, then back at Michael. Tomorrow's flight is canceled. Michael's hand, holding a pair of folded socks, froze in midair. Canceled? The base scheduled a last-minute coordination meeting for a joint exercise. It's mandatory, can't be moved, Alex said, his tone flat, as if reporting a work schedule that had nothing to do with him. I've already spoken to the travel agency. The honeymoon is postponed by 2 weeks. Michael placed the socks into a side pocket of the suitcase, his movements uninterrupted. Okay, I'll put the suitcase away then. Yeah, Alex said, and turned to leave. He had been there for less than 40 seconds. Michael knelt before the suitcase and began taking things out, one by one. The sunscreen, the adapter, the blood pressure medication, Alex's 2 dress shirts, his own swim trunks, the floral print sundress he had bought specifically for the honeymoon, the tag still attached. He folded the dress and placed it back in the deepest part of his closet. His phone lit up. It was a message from his best friend, Jessica. What time is your flight tomorrow? I want to see you guys off. Michael typed 3 words, it's postponed, and sent them. He then flipped his phone face down on the bed. He didn't cry or sigh. He simply zipped up the empty suitcase and pushed it back into the corner of the walk-in closet. The wheels rolled over the hardwood floor with a low, rumbling sound. This was the 11th month of their marriage. The honeymoon had been postponed twice before. The first time was for Alex's cross-departmental review at the beginning of the year. The second was for a surprise inspection from Fleet Command in March. Both times, Michael had said, okay. This was the 3rd time. A timer in the kitchen beeped. Michael stood up and walked to the kitchen to turn off the stove. A pot of chicken soup had been simmering for 2 hours. The broth was a milky white, dotted with carrots and herbs. He skimmed the fat from the surface, ladled a bowl, and carried it to the study. The soup is ready. Alex didn't look up, his hand turning a page of the document in front of him. Just leave it on the desk. Michael placed the bowl on the corner of the desk, in the 3rd grid square to the right. There was a silicone coaster he had placed there, its edge perfectly flush with the desk's. He had measured the spot where Alex usually set his coffee mug. Before leaving the study, He glanced at his husband's back. The muscles of his shoulder blades tense beneath his white t-shirt. Alex never looked at him. Michael closed the door. The next morning, Michael was watering the plants on the balcony when his phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number with a San Diego area code. "Hello?" he answered. "Hello, am I speaking with a member of Mr. Alex Stanton's family?" "Yes, this is his husband." "This is the United Airlines concierge service. We are calling to confirm that the seats for Mr. Stanton's booking for 2 passengers on flight UA 3251 tomorrow, from San Diego to Bali, have been upgraded to business class. We just wanted to confirm if you have any special meal requirements." The watering can in Michael's hand tilted. Water overflowed from the pot, spilling across the tiled balcony floor. "I'm sorry, you said tomorrow?" "Yes, sir. June 2nd. Flight UA 3251, departing at 10:20 a.m. The 2 passenger names are Mr. Alex Stanton and..." There was a pause as the agent shuffled papers. "Miss Claire Lynn." Water seeped from the balcony into the living room. Michael set the watering can down. His hands weren't shaking, but he could feel his heart beating in his throat, each thump making it hard to speak. "Sir, are you still there?" "Yes." His voice was steady, every syllable perfectly enunciated. "No special meals required. Thank you." He hung up and stood on the balcony, staring at the puddle of water at his feet. The sunlight reflecting off it was blinding. Claire Lynn. He knew that name. Before they were married, he had looked through one of Alex's old photo albums. In a high school picture, a slender girl with long hair stood next to him, smiling sweetly. He had asked Alex once who she was. "A childhood friend," Alex had said. "She moved abroad a long time ago." Not another word. He cleaned up the water on the balcony, washed the watering can, and placed it back on the second shelf of the balcony rack. Then he sat on the sofa, opened his phone, and searched for flight UA 3251. San Diego to Bali, 10:20 a.m. departure. Tomorrow. 2 business class tickets, one in his husband's name, the other in another woman's. And last night, his husband had stood in their bedroom doorway and told him the flight was canceled because of a mandatory meeting at the base. He opened his text conversation with Alex. The last message was from him, sent last night at 9 p.m. "The pills are in the outside pocket of your toiletry bag." Alex hadn't replied. Michael scrolled up through their chat history. Their conversations were always the same. He would send 2 or 3 messages, and Alex would reply with one. Sometimes an okay, sometimes a got it. His most frequent type of message was an instruction. "There's a reception at the Admiral's on Saturday. Be ready." He had never seen the name Claire Lynn on Alex's phone, not because Alex hid it well, but because Michael had never looked at his phone. He didn't look because he trusted him. Michael closed his messages and opened Amazon. The woven straw beach bag he'd ordered 3 days ago had been delivered to their building's package room. He hadn't picked it up yet. He found the order and clicked Return Item. At 2 p.m., he went to the supermarket. There were 2 cartons of milk left in the fridge, enough for 3 days. There were 5 eggs. He bought a bunch of celery, a block of tofu, and a carton of cherries. He loved cherries. Alex would sometimes grab a few from the fruit bowl on the coffee table as he walked by. Michael pushed his cart past the fresh seafood counter, his pace unchanged from any other day. The checkout line was long. The woman in front of him was fumbling through her purse for her wallet. Michael waited, his gaze falling on a display of disposable lighters by the register. He remembered how Alex looked on the phone last night. His back was straight, but it wasn't the tense posture of a difficult work call. It was something else. He could recognize it now, the slight lift of the shoulders, the way his body leaned forward, as if trying to get closer to the person on the other end. His voice, Michael couldn't hear the exact words from across the living room, but he remembered the last thing he said. "Okay, I'll arrange it. Not I'll handle it. Not Roger that. I'll arrange it." He had used that phrase with him once, when they were renovating their new condo. Michael had said he wanted a floor-to-ceiling window. Alex had said, "Okay, I'll arrange it." The window was installed. At the time, Michael thought it meant he cared. It was his turn. He placed the cherries, celery, tofu, and a bottle of soy sauce on the conveyor belt. He paid with his phone. Back home, he washed the cherries, dried each one with a paper towel, and arranged them on a white ceramic plate in the center of the coffee table. At 7 p.m., Alex came home. The sound of his dress shoes clicking on the tile floor in the entryway. Michael was in the kitchen, cooking. The range hood was loud. He didn't need to go out to greet him. How many dishes tonight? Herb-crusted salmon, roasted asparagus, garlic mashed potatoes, and a butternut squash soup. His footsteps headed toward the living room. Michael knew he would pour a glass of water first, then sit down and look at his phone for exactly 10 minutes. He checked the fish in the steamer. A chopstick pierced the flesh easily, perfectly cooked. He turned off the heat, transferred the fish to a platter, drizzled it with soy sauce, scattered fresh scallions on top, and finished with a spoonful of sizzling hot oil. By the time he had all 4 dishes on the table, Alex was already seated. His plate was set perfectly, the chopsticks resting on a holder, tips pointing left. He always set them that way because he was left-handed. During dinner, he glanced at his phone, typed a few words, and then flipped it face down on the table. "What time are you leaving tomorrow?" Michael asked. Alex's chopsticks paused for less than half a second before resuming their motion. "A car from the base is picking me up at 07000. I'll get up at 6 to make you breakfast." "Don't bother, I'll eat at the mess hall." He took a sip of the soup. The temperature was just right, not too hot. He took another bite of fish. He ate quickly. Throughout the entire meal, he said nothing else to Michael. When he finished, he pushed his bowl forward. "I'm heading to the study." "Okay, I'll get the dishes." He left. Michael collected his bowl and chopsticks. A piece of tofu was left untouched at the bottom. He used his own chopsticks to move it into his bowl, then rinsed Alex's bowl clean. The water was running loudly as he washed the dishes. His eyes stung for a moment, just a moment. He turned the faucet on higher. At 10 p.m., he came out of the shower. Alex was already in bed, his back to him, his breathing even and steady. Michael, in his nightgown, stood by the bed for 3 seconds, then lifted the covers and slid into his own side. The bed was a king, but there was a clear dividing line down the middle, not drawn but formed by habit. 2 individual hollows, never transgressed. He remembered their wedding night. Alex had held him, but only for a moment, a brief embrace that felt like completing a task. Then he had said, "Let's get some sleep." In the 11 months of their marriage, he could count on one hand the number of times Alex had touched him. He had thought it was because he was busy, because of a soldier's discipline and restraint. He had thought things would get better, once Alex wasn't so busy, once the honeymoon finally happened, once they had real time for just the 2 of them. He had been waiting. Now he knew where that time had gone. He turned on his side, looking at Alex's back. The straight line of his spine under the white t-shirt, his broad shoulders, his steady breath. He was sleeping peacefully. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., he would get dressed and leave. He would tell Michael he was going to the base, but his real destination was the airport, business class. 2 people to Bali. What was supposed to have been his life? Michael closed his eyes, his nails digging into his palms. He could feel the sharp pressure, deepening bit by bit. He hid his hands under the covers, his face expressionless. At 5:40 a.m., 20 minutes before his alarm, Michael woke up. He didn't open his eyes. The weight beside him was still there. The rhythm of his breathing was unchanged. He waited. At 5:55 a.m., Alex shifted, and the mattress springs recoiled slightly. He was up. The sound of water from the bathroom. Michael kept his eyes closed, listening, brushing his teeth, 2 minutes, washing his face, shaving the hum of the electric razor, the closet door opening and closing, footsteps leaving the bedroom, heading for the entryway. He heard the shoe cabinet slide open. Alex usually wore his combat boots, but today, Michael heard the soft slide of leather shoes. The brown loafers, a casual pair he had helped him pick out. The sales clerk had said they were perfect for a vacation. Alex had smiled, a rare thing, and said to him, "Then we'll take them." He had never worn them, until today. The jingle of keys in the entryway, then the sound of the front door opening. Michael opened his eyes. The ceiling was white. A sliver of gray-blue light filtered through the curtains. The deadbolt clicked shut. He was gone. No goodbye, no I'm leaving, not even a look back into the bedroom. He lay in bed, his gaze fixed on the ceiling light fixture. He had installed it himself, spending hours online comparing the color temperatures of a dozen brands to find the one that most closely resembled natural light, all because Alex had once commented that the lights in the house were too yellow. In their 11 months of marriage, everything he did was to make Alex's life more comfortable. He had put the labels on the containers in the fridge. He had arranged his shirts by color, from light to dark. He had reorganized the file rack on his desk according to his habits. He knew the dosage of Alex's medication better than Alex himself, and Alex had given his honeymoon to another woman. Michael sat up. He wasn't crying. He picked up his phone from the nightstand and opened the United app. He entered the flight number, UA3251. Flight status, checked in. He couldn't see the passenger information, but the departure time was there in black and white, 10:20 a.m. It was 16 vormittags. He was a liar. He got out of bed and went to the bathroom. The face in the mirror was pale, his lips dry. He turned on the faucet and splashed cold water on his face. As the cold shocked his skin, he saw a single hair on the edge of the sink, long and black. It wasn't his. He had dyed his hair dark brown 3 months ago. He stared at the hair for a moment, then picked it up with a tissue and threw it in the trash. At 6:30 a.m., he was in the kitchen, making himself a bowl of oatmeal. The oats bubbled in the pot, cooked until they were almost formless. He cracked an egg into the pot and whisked it in. He ate slowly, chewing every mouthful. Halfway through, he put down his spoon, picked up his phone, and went to the United Airlines website. UA3251, June 2nd, San Diego to Bali, business class. Seats available, 0. He took a screenshot. Then he closed the browser, opened his text messages, and found his conversation with Alex. The last message was still his from the night before last. The pills are in the outside pocket of your toiletry bag. Alex had never replied. He put his phone down and finished the rest of the oatmeal. He washed the bowl and spoon, wiped the kitchen clean until there wasn't a single drop of water on the counter. On the living room coffee table, the white ceramic plate of cherries he had washed yesterday remained. Alex hadn't eaten a single one. He stood in the middle of the living room and looked around at this home. 1,300 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Their marital home. When they were renovating, he had taken a month off work to oversee the contractors every day. He had spent 2 days at the fabric market to find the perfect blackout curtains that didn't make the room feel dark. He had adjusted the sofa's position 3 times to align it perfectly with the center of the television. He had added a storage shelf underneath the coffee table to hold the military journals Alex liked to read. Every detail bore his mark, but there were no pictures of him in this house. Not in the entryway, not in the living room, not in the study. There was a picture frame on the nightstand in the bedroom,